The Winnipeg Jets are doing the unthinkable as they win yet another game on the back of Gabe Vilardi and most importantly, Nikolai Ehlers. And they are sending the NHL a serious message. And quite frankly, they cannot be stopped right now. So, we're going to break down the game and discuss what it means going forward, as the next handful of games for this Jets team are going to be very, very difficult and will be very important for them to take care of business. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. If you're a part of the 70 or so percent who aren't subscribed to the channel, it's the place to be for daily NHL content and daily Winnipeg Jets content. So if you're a Jets fan and you're enjoying it, smash that subscribe button. But Darius, the Jets take care of business once again, this time against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And this is the final game in the little stretch now before they take on a bunch of very good teams. We're going to dive into that, but what a game tonight. And coming into this game again, one of the storylines was how they're going to hold up with Eric Comrie. He had a bit of a shaky outing last game, and he ended up doing very, very well tonight. And we have a bunch of things to go over, but Darius, the team is on fire. Appleton got a goal, and the story of the night was Nikolai Ehlers, who got the only, so far throughout the season, Winnipeg Jets hat trick, because that Kyle Connor hat trick was actually ended up being given to Gabe Vilardi. So the first hat trick of the season for the Winnipeg Jets, but they sent a serious message tonight. I'm going to dive into a couple of players that impressed me the most here. But Darius, the Winnipeg Jets are doing the unthinkable right now, 10-1, and you rewind back to the offseason, some times where analysts on Sportsnet specifically were saying, hey, what offense do the Winnipeg Jets have? Where are their goals going to come from? Sportsnet got shut up pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, the Winnipeg Jets are off to a fantastic start so far this season. You said it, 10-1-0. Their only loss coming to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and a great game in that game for Kyle Connor. But the one thing, and we'll get to a couple players like you mentioned in a second, but the one thing I've noticed about this Jets team so far this season is every game it seems to be something else. Sometimes it's your goaltender who's going to win you a game in Connor Hellebuck, right? Sometimes it's going to be Nikolai Ehlers getting you a hat trick here. Kyle Connor almost pulling them to, they could have had the record at this point. Kyle Connor tried his very best to get them that record. And, every game it's somebody else stepping up. And I love the efficiency of every line and how every line's been put together. I've said it before in previous videos. Gabe Vilardi getting on the scoreboard tonight as well, and he's up there on the top line. I think he's a great complement piece to a guy like Mark Scheifele, and obviously Kyle Connor, who's had a fantastic start to the season as well. But everyone's playing well, and we were talking about the pairing of Neil Pionk and Dylan Sandberg just a couple of days ago, and how great they've been, and they've had some not so great games as well, but the ability to bounce back. And I think that's very important for the Winnipeg Jets when they do have a poor effort, even though not many so far this year. Yes, a couple games have gone to overtime that they've won, but their ability to bounce back, the guys who haven't had the best game. So I think that's been very impressive, and we'll get to the advanced analytics in a second. But that's one thing that's certainly really surprised me so far this year, and you like to see it if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan. That's something that you're going to need throughout the season.
Yeah, and I said after the loss of the Leafs that they're probably going to bounce back and be just fine, and they've won 2 games since then. And yeah, you mentioned it. You look at a lot of the players in tonight's game. Obviously, Vilardi got a goal, Appleton got on the board, and it wasn't a game where Scheifele or Perfetti, a lot of the guys who have been playing very well, even Nikolai Ehlers, or not Nikolai Ehlers, Kyle Connor didn't get on the board, the scoreboard regarding goal scoring tonight. But some of the other guys stepped up, and everybody played well. And let's be very clear here: every single player on the Jets, you'd be hard pressed to find a player who had a bad game. And Eric Comrie was lights out once again. Again, Connor Hellebuck, giving him some rest is going to be important. And now Eric Comrie is 3-0, middling 2.5, goals against average, a great save percentage. So he's been off to a very hot start, and that's something that's going to be integral going forward for this Winnipeg Jets team, especially as you look ahead. And they have a lot of tough games ahead. And before I get into the schedule there, I just want to point out one player. If you go back to the stats for a second here, Rasmus Kupari tonight was very impressive. Now, he didn't get on the board. Obviously, he didn't score, didn't get an assist, but for someone who's been the fourth liner, was kind of, at the time, a bit of a throw-in in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. He has looked more and more comfortable with every game. We saw him start to look decent, throughout the season, but specifically tonight, he was skating very well, and his confidence is starting to show a lot more. It's starting to ooze out. Every single game he's playing, he's so confident that it's translating, not necessarily on the stat sheet yet. I think he'll get there like a lot of the young guys do, but on that fourth line, he's just continuing to impress. And that was one guy I wanted to give a shout out tonight, was Rasmus Kupari. And I think at 24 years old, I believe he's going to be a huge part of this team going forward.
Definitely. And I mean, he's a fourth liner right now, but how could you not be going with the way that they're playing? Every line seems to be going, maybe not tops in the NHL in any one category, but every line seems to be playing with a lot of purpose right now, right? And yes, you can nitpick certain things in different games, but the fact of the matter is They're 10-1-0 to start the season, and their ability to bounce back, all these things that we've mentioned, right? And everyone is going and playing with some purpose right now. And I think that's going to be huge, again, for them going forward, because if they ever lose that along the course of the season, they might be in trouble. But the way they're playing, the way they're vibing right now, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But Nick, like you mentioned, I wanted to get some of your thoughts on the upcoming schedule, because it is a little interesting. It's a little tougher, and obviously they're off to a hot start, and you're going to lose some games over the course of the season. But I want to get your take on, how far this can go, because 10-1-0 is very impressive. They're still the best team in the National Hockey League, and coming up, a couple interesting matchups.
Yeah, and that's why it was very important for them to beat the teams that they did the past couple games. Obviously, the loss of the Leafs, but they took care of business at the easier part of the schedule through the first 11 games. But you look at this schedule now, and even though some of these teams, a couple of them haven't gotten off to as good of a start as we were used to, mainly the Colorado Avalanche and Tampa Bay to a degree here, but even Tampa Bay isn't great. So you look at Tampa Bay, they played Tampa Bay on Sunday. That's going to be a tough game. Utah, probably going to be also a tough game. The Avalanche, always a tough team. Dallas, one of the best teams in the NHL. Rangers, one of the best teams in the NHL. Tampa Bay, great. And then Florida, Cup guys, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult for them to. I'm not going to say it's difficult. I do still think the Jets at this point are the best team in the NHL, but they're really going to have to show now, because for all the fans out there, fans of other teams and analysts saying that, not that it was a fluke, because you can't fluke your way to 10-1, but saying that maybe this team hasn't played as many good teams as some of the other teams around the NHL. This is going to be their test now. If they can go, there's a lot of games for the next 10 or so games. They can go 7-3, even 6-4, 8-2, something like that. Like 6-4, I think would be very respectable for the next 10 games, given how difficult they are. But that would be the low end for me. I think the Jets have a real good chance here to make a strong push and win the majority of these games. I just think at this point they're rolling and they're that good. And again, they gave Hellebuck a rest. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the next 4 games against these teams.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, out of the next 4 games, I'm looking at Utah as maybe the easiest opponent, maybe. And I use that word very lightly because, yes, they're missing a couple defensemen, but they are playing well and have top-end talent. And I don't really subscribe to the fact that, you can pencil off games as guaranteed wins in the National Hockey League. Any team can beat you on any given night, right? You never know what's going to happen. Obviously, there's weaker opponents, that's for sure. But when you look at the schedule, I mean, you got Florida back-to-back coming up. Tampa Bay has had a pretty good start to their season considering who they've lost in the summer. Dallas, one of the best teams in the NHL. Colorado, you can't count out, even though they have a bunch of injuries, right? New York, one of the best teams in the NHL, like you said. I mean, it's a tough schedule, and we're going to find out what the Winnipeg Jets are made out of, because the narrative right now, in some places, like you said, is that they've played some easy teams, and I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I think they've beat some pretty good teams, and they deserve to be where they are because of their play, right? So I think this next stretch is really going to show us what the Winnipeg Jets are made of. And you know what? If they continue to play the way they are, they might roll over a couple of these teams. It's going to be very interesting to watch. By the time we get to December, let's say, where are the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, the team is the best in the NHL right now. They're absolutely rolling, and it's the best Winnipeg Jets hockey we've seen in a very long time, and it brings back some good memories. If they can keep this up, the sky's the limit for this team. They have all the talent in the world and one of the best goalies in the NHL. So let us know in the comments your thoughts on this. Do you think this is sustainable, especially as they approach the difficult part in the schedule? Let us know. Let me see you guys later.